Mrs. Carnegie, your involvement today with us has come to an end. I'll be confiscating the remainder of your assets and transferring them to Mrs. Breedlove.
Thank you, Miss Lena. Where would we be without you to keep things square between us?
Mr. Davison, you have the floor.
How? How did it come to this?
Mr. Davison, you and I both knew before we began that one way or another, only one of us was going to come out on top. That's how it works. That's how it always works.
I know, I just don't understand. When Gambino over there was in the picture, my revenue streams were solid. And now my cash flows have dried up with the loss of Carnegie. I don't know what to do.
Out of options? I couldn't agree more. Because the way I see it, Davison, this is the end of the line.
No, there's always a way out.
Perhaps. But do you see what I see? I think you do. I can see it in your eyes. Because once you do what you know you must, you'll see what I already know. It's all mine.
We'll see about this.
That's game. Miss Breedlove wins. Woo!
And we take our games seriously sometimes, don't we? How many of you in the room are those players? This is happening like this. So you're not volunteering. Someone's, yeah, we got those in the room. The people that take these games so seriously, they're going to win. So we've been talking about strategies for winning in life and using the comparison of games. First week, we had the game of Operation. Remember, some of you were here or watched online, and we had where you play out the different bad parts of the body and change those around, and I had difficulty with that. But the idea was teaching that only God can give us what we truly need. Especially in the area of the heart. We could have a hardened heart. You could have a divided heart, maybe a shallow heart, or maybe even a broken heart. And God is the one who provides what we need. He gives us a new heart. Next week, we had words with friends. And so in that one, Nokomis talked about the words that we use and reminded us that sometimes you may be a really good person, but when you're using vindictive, mean-spirited, those with bad intentions, vile words, those come straight from hell. Those are Satan's words. Those are not God's words. So reminded us of our words that we need to make sure we don't using words that curse, but we need to use words that create and build up in life. And then last weekend, we used the game Throw Burrito, which is a fun game. It's a fun game. Talk about our anger and how we use our anger and encourage us, the anger that we have, make sure we're using our anger not to be destructive, but using anger to be constructive and to build up the lives of others. So today, we've got this game of Monopoly. That is one big Monopoly board, isn't it? So it's a huge Monopoly. So the game of Monopoly, it's kind of a fun game. It is the all-time #1 game in the world as far as people go to. You look at it, it's there. It first came about in 1904. It's been around a long time. For some reason, it gave great encouragement to people through the Great Depression because it gave them a chance that they could get some property, some money, and feel like they were in charge and in control. So the game, it's fun because it's been produced in many, many different ways around the world. And it's built upon, here's the traditional game. We have it on the big screen or on the big board right here. But then they have different versions of it. They have all different kinds of TV shows. So you can pick out your favorite pastime TV show. I Love Lucy has a board just around this. There's ones that use all the different music groups that are out there. Sports teams. There's sports just themselves. And cities and nations around the world all have their own game boards. There's even a Bible-opoly, which I think that's just weird. But anything we can market and make money off of, we will. Then they also have one on animals. So you have all the animals. There's ones on horses and cats and dogs and dinosaurs. You can buy a dinosaur monopoly. And of course, there's always the My Little Pony monopoly as well. So we have all these games, and people are buying them, they're using them, and then the anniversary editions. So we got those, but the game of Monopoly, the intent is to win this game, you acquire more properties, you put houses on those, and you charge rent, and you get hotels, and you make more money, and of course, ultimately is to get all the property, all the money that you can, so you monopolize the board, and everybody owes you because you're in control. Now, how many in this room or online like to be in control? Sure, we like being in control. There's something about people just doling out money to use fun. And this is one of those, if you're winning, then it's great. But if you're not winning, it's not so much fun. But when we play games, we want to win. And sadly, what we do is we take the mentality that we play with games, especially the game of Monopoly, and we put that in our lives too, because we think if we have the most stuff, have the best assets, the most money, then we win in this thing called life. And that is not at all what God says. But we like to think that. If I have more stuff, if I have more cars, a better car than you, then I win. If I have a better job than you, then I win. If I have more money than you, then I win. If I have a better image than you, and we have all this stuff up, when we start thinking that way, what's bad is if we lose the stuff, if we don't have the image, if we don't have the better car, then we start thinking our life is not worthwhile, and it's not meaningful, and it's never enough. The way we measure our life, or the way we measure success, determines if our life has meaning. And I want you to know that God has a different measure than this game of Monopoly or the world has. So what we're going to do is we're going to take two of those tokens. There's all different ones, but one of those is a car. The car is the fun one. That's one of my favorite ones because it's the fastest. You mentally think, if I get the car, then I'm going to speed around, I'm going to get the more stuff. So we have the car, and I like to think of the car as our possessions. So success in life is not measured, however, by possessions, even though it does in the game, and it does many times in this world we live in. But it's not in the possessions itself. Luke chapter 12 is a story about Jesus, and he was teaching, he was giving some people some warnings in life, encouragements, and about what is most important in life. In the middle of all this talking, a man interrupts him. We see this in verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." So in the middle of Jesus' teachings, he's concerned about his money. It's like, didn't you hear anything he was saying? I just see it catching Jesus off guard, like, what? I wasn't talking about money. You weren't listening to anything. But he's concerned about his money. Here, the Messiah, the giver of grace and life and purpose and meaning. And what's this man concerned about? His money. Verse 14, Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me to be a judge and an arbitrator between you?" Sounds like Jesus is just a little bit ticked. Saying, who am I that you come to me? Am I supposed to be your banker to settle money? Verse 15, then Jesus said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of" what? Greed. And then he says his truth. Listen to his truth. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. So your life, what you have, God's measure says it's not about your possessions. And he says, be careful you don't get caught up in this whole thing of greed. Greed is I need more and I've got to have more. I've got to have more than you, certainly. But that idea that we're driving in life, and he's saying to this man, didn't you hear what I was talking about, the most important things of life? And it's true of many of us. We love Jesus, we want to follow him, but we get caught up in the things of life and we miss what Jesus is really teaching. So then Jesus tells him this story to help him understand. Verse 16, and Jesus told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. And then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy and eat and drink and be merry. But God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you, and then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? And Jesus summarized it with this. This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich toward God. And that's true of all of us. There's those times we just want a little bit more, and we start getting more, and is it enough? No, because we need a little bit more. And in this day and age, when you tore down your barns and built bigger barns, that was a big image thing, because, well, look at all that he's got. Look what she's acquired. You got a great car, but I need a little better car. I need this. You got to get more and more. Now, Jesus does not ever say possessions are bad. He doesn't say that at all. He never puts down wealth. In fact, God gives wealth. He's given some the ability with great skills and minds to accomplish a lot. There's nothing wrong with the possessions. The problem was that last verse where he said he stores up stuff for himself and not for God. In the story, verses 16 to 19, those 3 verses, he tells the story. The man uses I and me and my 11 times. His whole world was all about himself. It was not about God. A winning strategy in life appears to be greed, but God says that it is a losing strategy. It's a losing strategy is greed. It's not going to win. It's not going to get you ahead. It may look like that now in this life, but it's going to change. It's going to fall apart. This man is only looking to himself. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10 says this, whoever loves money whoever loves money never has money enough. All right, read it with me and help me out. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. So Solomon is writing and he's saying, you have love of money, but it's never going to be enough. All the stuff you have, there's always going to be something you need more and more and more. And we see this lived out around us all the time, and we see it in ourselves. See if you know who this is. All he ever wanted was more. He wanted more money. So he took his inherited wealth and he built millions of dollars in assets. He wanted more fame, so he went into Hollywood and became a filmmaker and a star. And he wanted more sensual pleasure, so he paid huge sums of money to indulge in every sexual urge he had. He wanted more thrills, so he designed, built, and piloted the fastest aircraft in the world. He wanted more property. He bought large properties all over the country in many different states and even other countries. In fact, he became the largest landowner in the state of Nevada and even had to buy a casino as well. He wanted more power, so he dealt political favors and became closely connected with 2 U.S. presidents, and all he ever wanted was more. He was absolutely convinced more would bring him true satisfaction. Unfortunately, history tells us something different about this man. When he died, he was a recluse, emaciated, fingernails in grotesque inches long corkscrews, rotting black teeth, tumors. He had needle marks all up and down his arms from his drug addiction. Who's this man I'm talking about? Howard Hughes. This man who had so much, everything that people want in life. It left him empty. He died believing the myth of more. So question, if he had one more business deal, one more property, one more thrill, would it ever have been enough? Jesus says no. Now, if Jean and I were to agree and she were to take the credit cards and we get a brand new credit card with unlimited amount, and she were to go to the mall, now this is a big if story, right? If she were to go to the mall and she had an entire day to buy everything she could possibly ever want, no limit, every dress, every shoe, everything you wanted for the house, everything all the things she'd want to buy for me, all the stuff she wanted to buy for her kids and grandkids, she bought it all. Would it be enough? Well, we will never know. It ain't going to happen. But we want more. See, the commercials, the media, the drive-bys, everything that we look at in front of our billboards or turn our TV says 2 things they're trying to teach us. One is they're trying to teach you don't be content. What you have is not enough. You may have acquired more, but you need to buy this. And they're also not only teaching that you should not be content, but they're teaching you need to buy this. You need to have this. You need to acquire one more. You need to buy this thing. You need to have one more drink. You need to have one more bonus. You need to have one more thrill. You need to have one more to get ahead. And this one will make you content and happy. But it doesn't work. So the way our world is driven is to teach us the opposite of what God desires for us. Who is more content? A person with $1 million or a person with 12 kids? The correct answer is the one with 12 kids. because they don't want any more. Now, don't write me bad letters. I know people like kids. The kids are good, but just a joke, all right? But we get to that point where we say, I gotta have more. I've gotta have more. And that stirs up in every one of us in this room and everyone that is watching online. Gustavo Vega, who's our campus pastor at Troy, sent me this note. He says, if I am the owner of my possessions, then acquiring more and using them is all about me. But if God is the owner of my possessions, then acquiring more becomes about God and using them for him and for others. And again, the Bible never puts down wealth, never puts down having more, but it's how do you use it? The game of Monopoly is opposite of Jesus' teaching. He said this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19. He said, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, that is where your heart will be also. So who's the owner of all your possessions? What is your intent of getting more? What is your intent of accomplishing? Is it for yourself, your bigger barns, for your own pleasure, or is it to honor God with? See, when this game is done, no matter how many properties, how much you've acquired, it all goes where? It all goes back in the box. It's done over with. Same thing for our life. This rich fool had so much, but it was in. His life was over with. He was bankrupt. He had nothing invested with God. There's another item up here is the hat. The hat's kind of fun. The hat implies you're stylish. Well, you've got it together. You should look like you own the whole board because you're the king of it all. And success, however, in life is not measured by your personal image. We think if I could just look the part, then I would have it all. People just look at me and they go, wow, what a great looking person that is. Look how they're dressed. They are dressed with style, with fashion. Well, look at their great body. They've got the muscles. They've got all. You think, if I just get this personal image, then I will be successful in life. 1 Corinthians 13 is the love chapter of the Bible, but it starts out with some things that we need to hear today. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. But you may be the best person with your words, just so eloquent. You can say it so well. I mean, you could sell anybody anything. You've developed that skill. Boy, your words are smooth. You put it out there and people hear you just go, wow, look at that. And maybe you're the best singer there is. I'm so much better singer than anybody else. And people are so impressed when you sing that they go, wow, he or she is the best when they worship God. Look what their image is. But he said, you can be the best with your words, but if you don't have love in you, you're a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. It is noise before God. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains but have not love, I am nothing. If you have this gift of prophecy, you can take that spiritual gifts assessment and say, well, look at all the stuff I've got. I've got all of these spiritual abilities. You can look like the most spiritual person in the church. You've accomplished so much. You got all the knowledge. You got a sharp mind. You've got more degrees. You may have all the titles, be so impressive. When people around you, they just go, whoa, look at he, look at she. Boy, they've got it all. They're so impressed. But he says, if you don't have the love for God or others, it's nothing. All that knowledge means nothing. Third verse, if I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. You can be the most generous person. You can be giving everybody the best gifts. Everybody wants to be around you because they're around you. They might get something from you. So you have this generous looking heart around you. Boy, you give your body, it means you're going to be a martyr. And right now, boy, a lot of people are to fight for a cause. And so you can find a cause and you could stand up for it. You could be the strongest voice, the loudest voice, the most impressive. And people go, wow, look what you're doing. We get on our computer and boy, we type out that stuff and we look like we're standing for it. But he says, if you're not loving, it doesn't mean anything. Now, all those words, all the singing, all the knowledge, all the skills, all the impressive spiritual stuff impresses other people, but it does not impress God at all because it leaves you empty. The Pharisees, they were the religious leaders, and Jesus said they were building their own kingdom, not the kingdom of God. And how about you? Are you building God's kingdom in your life? You walk with him. Preachers do this. Church people do this all the time. People outside the world look at the church and they go, what are you doing? You're just trying to show off and impress each other. They can see our hearts better sometimes than we do. 1 Samuel 16, verse 7 says, the Lord does not look at the things that people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at your heart. And this morning, where's your heart? Where is this in your life? Or what are you living for God? Does he see this? Or are you just building up your big image on what you look like? You know, we all struggle with this. And a while back, I was pulled over. I was driving down the road. The officer said I was speeding. He was obviously wrong. I was just going a little fast, you know. And so he asked for my driver's license and my insurance card. So I give it to him. And I actually had this thought. I thought, I should tell him I'm a pastor, you know. Because he didn't think I was on some noble cause, some life or death thing, and he'd probably go easy on me, but I didn't. I want you to know I didn't. But why would I do that? I'm just going to Home Depot, but I want to imply that I've got this really important person, you know? And we do that. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be at your best, but when your image is all about yourself and not about God, there's something missing. Amen? My personal image, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. When God created and designed us, it says, then God said, let us make mankind in whose image? Our image, God's image, and in God's likeness. So as a follower of Jesus, how are you doing at building up God's image in your life? Or are you just building up yourself? Our greatest possession is to have faith in God. That's the greatest thing you can have. More than your image. So we've got this image. We've got all the stuff. Here's the game. Boy, we could get all the possessions, all the houses, all the wealth. And boy, we've got the hats. We've got this polished image. Man, you've worked hard. You've got the looks. You've got everything you have, and this aging thing starts coming along, and well, you just paint a little bit more, tuck a little bit more, and polish up a little bit more, and think, I just have this great image in my life. But guess what? When you're dead and gone, that glorious body is just going to go in a box, isn't it? And then what do you have to say? So you have this whole image, this whole look. What's happened to it? It just goes in a box, and the game is over. Now, we don't like to think about that, but that's a part of our life. That's a part of the reality around us. Perhaps when you're little, your mom or dad might have taught you to pray this prayer. It says, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul. That's a wonderful thing to pray for your child, isn't it? Huh? Okay, do you go verse 2 of that? Verse 2 gets even better. It says, our days begin with trouble here. My life is but a span, and cruel death is always near. So frail a thing is man. Good night. Sweet dreams. You know? Now, you think, why would a parent ever teach their child that? Well, there was a time when they wanted to make sure we understood this life is temporary. And we're all going to die. So every night you just stop and remind yourselves, it's not about this world. It's about my relationship with God and my soul. So it's not this image, not my stuff, but saying, God, where is it? And I'm not saying you should teach your children that prayer, but something about a reminder. And how are you doing about that in your own life? And if you're a parent, what are you building into the life of your children? When they watch you, do they see a life that's sold out for God and following him and his image, or do they see a life that you're building all about your own kingdom? And you're missing the point. And you're teaching that to your own kids. So when people look at your life around you, do they see that you're all about this game of possessions, or do they see that you're one that's building the image of God and working towards him? Matthew 16:26, Jesus said these words, what good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeits their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? This rich fool, boy, he had it all. But at the end, when it was over with, I imagine he would have given all of it to have his relationship with God where it should be. Now, it's not meant to be fear, but it's just meant to be a reality check on where is most important. What is it in your life means that you win? What means it success in your life? Is it your looks? Is it your image? Is it your possessions? Or does success in life really come down to know God and your soul belongs to him? That's success. But you say, I know God. That's true success in life. And your soul, it belongs to be him and a part of him in your life. God, we're grateful for your gifts of grace. Thankful for the teaching in your word and how Jesus just spoke to people and the realities of life and his message we need today. Thank you for the abundance that we have, and forgive us, God, when we pursue and desire abundance more than you. Father, I pray that you would give us a hunger for you more than greed for stuff. Father, I pray that you give us a humility of heart for our pride and our arrogance, and that we would desire to reflect you more than building up ourselves. Father, I pray that during this difficult season of life, when we're so rocked by all the things going on around us, that we would see true meaning and purpose in life with you no matter what the circumstances around us. So would you just speak to us now, God? Bring a conviction over us and bring us a hope. It's in Jesus I pray.